Declan announced, Declan Kidney announced the Ireland squad for New Zealand this summer. So,
morning. Following from the medical reports over the weekend, the squad to travel New Zealand is Rory Best, Sean Cronin, Stephen Ferris, Declan Fitzpatrick, Cian Healy, Jamie Heaslip, Sean O'Brien, Donegal O'Callaghan, Peter O'Mahony, Mike Ross, Donegal Ryan, Mike Sherry, Dan Toohey. I have 3A and others in the forwards in a minute, which I'll explain to you. Darren Cave, Gordon Darcy, Keith Earls, Rob Carney, Fergus McFadden, Conor Murray, Brian O'Driscoll, Ronan O'Gara, Owen Redden, Jonathan Sexton, Andrew Trimble and Simon Zebo, and one more A and other in the backs. Just to explain the reasons for the A and others is following from the medicals rather than just naming guys who are carrying knocks at the moment. We just want a few lads to just prove their fitness a little bit further before we actually name them, rather than putting in people and then maybe with the possibility of crying off later on. So the A and others will be in the front row. Tom Court picked up a fracture of his thumb over the weekend, so Brett Wilkinson is the front runner for that particular position. Depending on how the next week goes, he's coming into the Barbarian squad as well then too. Obviously he had a calf injury a number of weeks back, but he's rehabbed that fully and has been training, and he'll join us in terms of preparation for the Barbarians game on Thursday, and we'll work our way through that and then finalise that position before we head off. Obviously we have other guys that then stand by, so if you have any questions about that, like Ronan Loughney, Ronan Loughney, Dave Kilcoyne, Jack McGrath, Paddy McAllister, they'd all be in the backup as well then too. And I suppose that's why I'm branching off a little bit here now, but that's why we would have had most of those lads in a training during the Six Nations, just so as they'd get a feel for what we were at, because we partly guessed we'd be in this situation. So just to go on, as regards another A, another second row, obviously we'll bring another second row, so that'll be the position will be holding open for Paul. But as he's still just in a brace for these last couple of days, he'll be out of that on Thursday. We just felt it more prudent to leave it as an A another for Paul O'Connell. In the back row, the front runner for that would be Chris Henry. We feel that he's gone well this season, but obviously he's been carrying Neagles, put in another good stout performance on Saturday. But we just want him to get another week's training under his belt, because with the arduous of this tour coming up, we want to have as many fully fit with us as we can. We know that we'll be carrying a few bangs and knocks. We just want to limit that as far as possible. And then the backs, we have two scrum halves named already, so the front runner for that would probably be Isaac Boss, and we'll just see how his week's training goes this week. We anticipate that he should be okay, but obviously we have other men in the background there as well then too, in Paul Marshall coming into the Barbarian squad, and Tomás O'Leary, obviously with his experience as well then too, Peter Stringer. These would be other guys that would be in the background there, should Isaac not come through that.
Declan, you've included 3 uncapped players in the squad as well, in Simon Zebo, Declan Fitzpatrick and Mike Sherry. A big task for the 3 of them?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic opportunity, You going to New Zealand for a 3-match tour like this, which Ireland have never done before, is a great opportunity for them, and it'll be a great learning experience for them. But they've had to do it on the back of results, because this isn't a place for the faint of heart. You have to go there as strong as you can and front up in what will be 3 real test matches. Even if you just look at the location of them and the circumstances under which we're playing New Zealand, you know that they'll be well up for it, and they've had to play well during the season to be included, so they're included on merit. But also I think it'll be a great opportunity for them.
Declan, obviously you mentioned all the injuries that we are carrying. How concerned are you that this Irish team perhaps aren't quite where they should be this time of year, or where they could be this time of year?
Well, I think it all depends on which part of the glass you look at. Like we've been planning for this tour from probably about 18, 20 months back, when we sit down with the provinces and we take a look at the game time that players play. So we do this well-documented player welfare programme specifically for this time of the year. So I think the provinces can gain out of it. The players are good and fresh coming to the playoff stage of the season, and so then they still have some in reserve as well then too. And there's no exact science in terms of number of games players play or don't play, because it goes with, I was at a medical conference here last week and somebody said, how many games can you play? Like, if you don't train at all, you can play more games. The more you train, obviously, you need to cut back. But we'd look at best practice around the world, and we keep a close eye on what's happening, lads, in the Premiership in England and in the French League. So our guys' game time is well down on that as a result of working with the provinces. And so, in the same way as they've had, as we've seen over the weekend, they've had buckets of energy for that. You know, this is like 3 more Heineken Cup finals, and even bigger, because that's what Test match rugby is a demand on it. So we did the planning in terms of number of game times from 18 months back, but also during the Six Nations, when we rotated players, we rotated them with the purpose of this tour. So we would have played about maybe about 20 players. I'm not sure the exact stat there, but I know we had just over 50 players into camp. So in some of those 50, when those players rotated out, it was either to get some game time with their provinces, if they were down it, or maybe to get a rest week to make sure that they would be fit and up and going towards the end here. And maybe we didn't expound on that enough earlier on in the year, just to explain our rationale as to why we were rotating during the Six Nations. But it was with a view to making sure that we could prepare as well as possible for those matches, but also with a view to a game that is quite position specific. So we had to rotate them so that when guys come in, they would be au fait with how we operate, and it wouldn't be all new to them.
Declan, can you explain our position with regards to world ranking points, and does that influence your squad makeup?
Well, our position is that we lie 8th. The truth of it is the gap between ourselves and New Zealand is so great, it's there for us to gain. We won't be, there is nothing to lose in that, but there's massive gains that we could make, and that's what we'll be looking to try and do that in this tour. But also representing Ireland against the world champions, there's, you know, the economics of it is that we obviously must perform well. Like, it's a fantastic opportunity. You want New Zealand coming over here, so in the same way we ask them to honour us by playing us with full size, we would do exactly the same thing with them as well then too. And I don't want to be using the same expression all the time, but in terms of faint of heart, you don't experimenting in matches against New Zealand is akin to experimenting in Heineken Cup playoff matches. So it's you need to go for it.
Declan, watching that game on Saturday as Irish coach, were you a very proud man?
Yeah, I did. Like, look, what an occasion, right? The biggest crowd ever, I think, they got for a Heineken Cup final. It's been an all-Irish final. The way the boys went at one another, full throttle, and I thought it was a good game of rugby. You know, it's as good as any Heineken Cup final that has been played in terms of the quality of the rugby that was played. And it was just, you know, it was just a fantastic occasion to be at, along with 80-odd thousand other largely Irish people. And yeah, you'd have to be proud of knowing that occasion. That's one that you would talk about in years to come, because sometimes you see it in soccer, and you know, I see the bit about, oh, we have to take a look at the competition if there's 2 Irish teams getting into it, but nobody would be taking a look at the Champions League if it was Barcelona and Real Madrid playing in it, you know. So that would have been seen as that was the norm. We had 2 Irish teams in it, and congratulations to both of them for having got there, and more so to Leinster for finishing the job and achieving what they've achieved, not alone this year but over the last 4 years. You know, I've been involved in that level before. I know what it takes to win one, so it's a fantastic achievement.
Gert, just on your own position, coming back in and being on the tour, it must be nice to be back in the Irish Premier League.
Absolutely, I'm feeling good and lost a little bit of weight, so my wife is very happy about that, and I'm really looking forward to the tour, and great opportunity, exactly like Declan said. So yeah, nice to be back, and nice to be back with Declan and the rest of the team as well. The other day that when we were together, you know, it's really good to see the guys again for the first time. So nice to be back.
Just run through the standby players first, right?
Standby overall, Derek, or in terms of the A and other guys?
It's huge.
Yeah, it's
No.
yeah. Well, it would be, yeah, yeah. Well, like even by way of contracts, because of central contracting, by definition, everybody is nearly on standby, right? Okay, but we would have identified, we would have had a meeting, and all the lads who were at the meeting know they're on standby. But then because of the bangs and knocks, even that list is extended again because of the position specific.
Okay, is Craig Gilroy on an A or D standby, and is Richard Strauss on standby?
Richard Strauss doesn't qualify until next season, and Craig Gilroy is definitely on standby. He's in the Barbarian squad, so you can take it that anybody who's in the Barbarian squad, there will be some lads coming home from that, and they are very definitely on standby, yeah.
Lads, New Zealand have lost a couple of players to injury as well in recent weeks, like Captaincy and Jane. Does that make it any easier for you guys when you head over there?
The All Blacks, Eden Park? No, I don't think so. Look, world champions, they set the standard. I've had experience against them with the Springboks as well, also with Ireland, and Gert's had some experience with them. They put up a team that's capable of winning any test at any time. The depth of talent they had, the players they've drawn in. If you've watched any Super 15, they're in good form, and some good players who are stepping into the breach there. So it doesn't make it any easier. It's going to be a tough tour.
Broadcaster questions? TV?
Declan, just to touch again on Brian Driscoll, I don't just get a few words, superlatives of some people run out of things to say about him, but the sheer hunger and desire and physical things he puts himself through must be inspirational for the rest of the squad.
Well, like Brian, I'm not sure if it's on the sheet. Brian will captain the tour, right? And I suppose that's the best answer that I can give to that, because he won't ask any player to do anything that he's not willing to do himself. And I think he's always led by example. And whereas there's nothing new in what I'm saying in that, that's the biggest compliment that you can give to a captain, that he's not going to ask these players to do anything that he can't do himself.
And just finally, what are the realistic objectives for this tour, which has to be one of the toughest schedules you could possibly imagine?
It'll be to win the series first and foremost. It'll be and then you work downwards from there. But that's what we'll be going to try and do.
And does the achievements of the provinces in the Hampton Cup fill you with, I guess, hope and enthusiasm for the tour?
Yeah, no, I think it's great. It gives them good confidence in going forward. I'd also be encouraged by the fact that you look at what the players have been saying about the difference between provincial and club rugby and test rugby, that there's that 15% step up. Like you've just asked me a question there on terms of the goals for the tour. That's what we'll try and do. We know that the record is we haven't beaten New Zealand in ever, right? So beating New Zealand will be an achievement in itself, but we'd be playing disrespect to the jersey if we didn't try and go for the ultimate. But let's just take it one game at a time, and you don't look upon it as 3 matches. We just have New Zealand first up on the second Saturday in June, and that's the one we need to get ourselves ready for. And it's going to be their first game back after winning a World Cup. I'm sure there's going to be a celebratory atmosphere around Eden Park on the night. There was a time during the World Cup where we were their second favourite team when we beat Australia. I'm sure that'll be a bit of a change now. And overall, it's just, I think all you have to do is just ask the players. They'll know the difference. It's fantastic, the achievements they're making with their provinces, and hopefully Leinster will go on and finish a double on Sunday. But there is that step up physically, technically, tactically. Like emotionally, the Heineken Cup gives you a load, but on all those other aspects, the test rugby is just that bit higher. And there was a time when I would have thought maybe that it was pretty much the same, but I have to say now, being involved week in, week out, and I know 1 or 2 players reprimanded me when I even tried to suggest that 5 years ago, and I know it to be a fact.